All right, good afternoon. I'll start off with a statement on the passing of Saeb Erekat. The Secretary General was deeply saddened to learn of the death of Dr. Saeb Erekat, the Palestinian Liberation Organization Secretary General and Chief Negotiator for the Palestinians in the Middle East peace process. The Secretary General was grateful to have known Dr. Erekat and to have called him a friend. He was dedicated to the peaceful pursuit of justice, dignity, and the legitimate rights of Palestinians to self-determination, sovereignty, and statehood. Now is the time to continue his crucial work and end the conflict that has tragically affected the lives of so many. The Secretary General reiterates his own and the United Nations commitment to support all efforts to bring the parties together to achieve the long-awaited and just and sustainable two-state solution, with Israel and Palestine living side by side in peace and security. On behalf of the United Nations, the Secretary General extends our heartfelt condolences to Dr. Erekat's family, the President Abbas, the people of Palestine, and his many friends and supporters around the world. And a statement from the Secretary General should have been emailed to you as we speak. The Secretary General also sent a pre-recorded video message to today's meeting of the Council of Heads of States of Member States of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. He said that the pandemic has intensified vulnerabilities, inequalities, and fragilities across the world, and that the recovery will require global cooperation to protect lives and livelihoods and to keep economies and businesses afloat. The Secretary General said that he counts on the strong engagement of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization's member states and welcomes their support for his appeal for a global ceasefire. And yesterday evening, the Secretary General, we addressed by video message, spoke by video message to the World Jewish Congress after they conferred upon him the Theodor Herzl Award. In those remarks, he warned that in recent months, a steady stream of prejudice has continued to blight our world. Anti-Semitic assaults, harassment and vandalism, Holocaust denial, a guilty plea in a neo-Nazi plot to blow up a synagogue, and with COVID-19, another virus has spread, he said, anti-Semitism and hatred of many kinds. He said that disinformation and conspiracy theories have gained alarming ground. They come in different forms, he added, but they will all traffic in the same venom, dehumanizing and scapegoating the other, whether it's Jews, Muslims, migrants, refugees, or so many others. We must stand together against hatred in all forms, he added. And today, the Deputy Secretary General traveled to Borno State in Nigeria's northeast, in Banki, a town located at the border with Cameroon. She visited a camp hosting internally displaced people, as well as Nigerian refugees returning from Cameroon. In addition to challenges related to security and growing humanitarian needs, Amina Mohammed saw firsthand the efforts undertaken by authorities, NGOs, and our partners to respond to the impact of the COVID-19 in some of the country's most vulnerable communities. Later in the day in Maiduguri, she met with the governor of Borno State. She visited a girls' secondary school and discussion with colleagues from the humanitarian community. She's on her way back to Abuja as we speak, and her mission will continue tomorrow. A quick update from our humanitarian colleagues on the impact of Tropical Storm Eta. In Honduras, UN agencies and NGOs launched a rapid assessment yesterday that will be completed by Thursday. To date, we, along with our partners, have delivered nearly 19,000 hygiene, health, and food kits, 500 shelter, and nearly 11,000 food rations and other kits. Preparations are also underway to distribute more than 150,000 food rations to shelters. In addition, some 340,000 COVID-19 detection supplies and 46,000 kits of personal protective equipment have been distributed to shelters. In Guatemala, 135,000 liters of drinking water has been delivered, and our friends at UNICEF are procuring hygiene kits and protective equipment for schools. Nicaragua, PPEs are being provided, including 26,000 disposable surgical gowns, caps, and masks, and 1,370 face shields for frontline health workers in impacted areas. El Salvador, 7,000 kits have been distributed. The Food and Agriculture Organization is also supporting impacted families in rural areas with some 20,000 farmers. And the World Food Program has $250,000 available for immediate food emergency needs. Turning to Mali, we are very pleased to announce that Major General Bettina Patricia Bougani of France will be the next police commissioner of the UN peacekeeping mission in Mali. She will lead one of the larger UN police mission components and is expected to assume her post in January. Major General Bougani of the Gendarmerie also becomes the first woman to lead the UN police component in Mali, which currently has almost 1,700 police officers from 29 countries, including 221 women. Major General Bougani has extensive command experience in various posts in the Gendarmerie in France, as well as UN experience, and we thank her predecessor, Police Commissioner Youssoufou Yakuba, for his service, and you spoke to him last week, and he will, yes, you spoke to him last week on Friday. And quick note from our friends at the International Organization for Migration and the World Food Program that warn that COVID-19 could push more people to move out of necessity as hunger surges among migrants and displaced communities. It shows that in the world's 164 million migrants workers, especially those working in the informal sector, are some of the worst hit by the pandemic. The report notes that the World Bank expects a 14% drop in remittances to low and middle income countries by 2021, and that will have consequences for food security, and those consequences could be devastating. More information online. And as you may have seen in a tweet he posted earlier this morning, Jean-Pierre Lacroix, the Undersecretary General for Peace Operations, has said he tested positive for COVID-19. The diagnosis was made while he was in Portugal, where he was scheduled to attend a meeting on Security Council Resolution 1325. As soon as he received the positive results, he notified local authorities, isolated himself in Lisbon. He is asymptomatic and will remain isolated for the required number of days as per standard medical guidance. Contact tracing was immediately implemented accordingly. We are grateful for the Portuguese government for their testing and logistical support. And Mr. Lacroix is in fine spirits, as I can report. And today is World Science Day for Peace and Development. The theme this year is Science for and with Society, focusing in particular on dealing with the current pandemic. In a message for the day, the Director General of UNESCO, Audrey Azoulay, highlighted that the science will play an important role in overcoming this crisis and will also help build more just and more compassionate and sustainable societies. That's it. Mr. Bays.
So start by following up on Mr. Lacroix's diagnosis. What has been his recent travel? When was he last in headquarters? When did he last meet the Secretary General?
Okay, he was last in headquarters, I think, more than a month ago. As you know, he'd been on a trip to Africa. I think he'd been in Ethiopia and Central African Republic, to name a few, with his counterpart in the African Union, Ismail Shergi. And so we've been in touch with the African Union. All the contract tracing has been done. He has not physically seen the Secretary General in more than a month, if at all. So on that part, and obviously he had been planning to go back to Africa to a number of peace operations, and those trips have been postponed.
Situation in Nagorno-Karabakh. Can you tell us what the UN has been doing, what diplomacy has been taking place with regard to, at a UN level at a time of this deal brokered by Russia? And does the Secretary General feel that this deal now should be commented on in some way by the Security Council?
What I can tell you is that the Secretary General is relieved that the deal has been agreed to on a cessation of hostilities. I think our consistent focus has been on the well-being of civilians, on humanitarian access, and on protecting lives. And we hope that this will now be achieved, consistent with the previous important efforts of the Minsk co-chairs. Now, there's obviously, we've seen the reporting, implications for the UN, notably UNHCR. We, as the UN and UNHCR, I know it's the same for UNHCR, have not been involved. We're not involved in the discussions. UNHCR obviously has a mandate. They are in touch with the Russian and other authorities to see how we can best support the deal. So we're reviewing the elements, but the need to respect international humanitarian law, international human rights law remains paramount. All right, let's go to the videos. Hold on, let me see who has. Let me look at my chat. Alan, I think you had a question, and then we'll go to James Reinl.
No, Steph. Thank you. It was a question to Brendan.
Okay.
I asked it. Thank you.
Okay, James Reinl. James?
Hi there. Can you hear me, Steph?
Yes, sir.
So, yeah, it's a question about this new coronavirus vaccine. Pfizer says that they've developed a vaccine. They say it's a good one. You guys say that vaccines have got to be rolled out to people in poor countries, basically. And you've got this COVAX facility to make this happen. But as I understand, COVAX doesn't have a deal standing with Pfizer. Is this something that the SG is pursuing?
Well, we very much hope that our colleagues at WHO who are leading on COVAX, and I've no doubt that they are in touch with all the leading manufacturers, whether or not they have a deal or not. It is clear that, and understandable, that member states will want to protect their own population. But in the medium term, even in the short term, it is important that there be access to vaccines for the population at large. We don't want to see within a year or 2 years only those who can afford it have the vaccine, because that'll serve no purpose for the recovery of the planet as a whole.
Yeah, but is the SG, Mr. Guterres, going to get on the phone with the CEO of Pfizer and say that and try and make something happen?
Look, WHO is in the lead in terms of contacts with the pharmaceutical industry. Okay, Evelyn and Edie then. Okay. Can you somebody mute Evelyn, please? Thank you. Evelyn, we'll come back to you because there's a technical issue. Edie, go ahead. Evelyn, please mute. Please mute. We'll come back to you. Edie, go ahead.
Thank you, Steph. I have a question on Nagorno-Karabakh. Obviously, there is a ceasefire. We all heard what the president of Armenia said, but obviously there are going to have to be some serious negotiations. And I wonder what the UN is trying to do, what the Secretary General may be trying to do to ensure that both countries are on the road to peace and not to a resurgence of fighting.
Well, obviously, initial part, our colleagues at UNHCR are in touch with the Russian and other authorities to see how they can help implement, because it is part of the deal as we've seen it. We will be and are continuously in touch with the parties and the Minsk co-chair to see how we can help and we can facilitate, and that this, if I'm not mistaken, is the fourth or the fifth attempt, and that this sticks for the civilians in the area of conflict who have suffered long enough. All right, Evelyn?
The Deputy Secretary General, Ms. Amina Mohammed, has been to her home in Nigeria several times. Has she mentioned the SARS, the murderous police squad that people are protesting against?
Yes, I think this is an issue that has come up in her discussions with the government, and I think she also underscored the need for the government to listen to the voices of youth and the readiness of the United Nations to support support this end of impunity as much as possible. Thank you. Okay, Abdelhamid and then Maria.
Next,
This is not a good technical day. All right, go ahead. Evelyn, go ahead. Did you have another question? Okay. Let's try Abdelhamid. Otherwise, we'll go to the room.
Stéphane, I should always consult with Edith because she normally takes my question. She reads my mind and she asked this question I wanted to ask.
We'll make sure you go first next time. All right, Maria and then James.
I'm not sure about my English usually, and now it seems that it's really hard to to be heard. Do you hear me okay?
Perfectly. Go ahead, Maria.
I wondered about your answer on Nagorno-Karabakh. It's unusual to hear relieved. It's quite unclear. So SG doesn't welcome the agreement.
Of course. I mean,
does he have any doubts about it?
No, not at all. And I think relief encompasses welcoming, right? I think we're very grateful for the Russian authorities for what they have done, and the sense of relief is really about the hope that this will end the suffering of civilians. I mean, we have repeatedly from this podium condemned the targeted attacks on civilians and civilian infrastructure that we have seen. And so by expressing relief, we obviously express welcome to the fact that this deal was reached, and we will do whatever we can on our part to support the parties as they implement it.
Yeah.
Okay. James?
So first, a follow-up on the other James's question. I understand COVAX is a very big part of this, and that's the funding, that's the money. But is there any thought here at the UN in collaboration with the WHO about exactly how you operationalize this in terms of the logistics of getting the vaccine everywhere, in addition to the funding, and taking it, for example, to conflict zones so that people can get vaccinated? Is there any sort of panel or is there anyone in charge of trying to leverage the whole UN system beyond the WHO to try and make sure that happens?
Well, I think, first of all, it's important to say that we're all, I think, optimistic about what we've heard, but we're not there yet with the vaccine. So I think we all, but obviously, I think all of us, every one of us on this planet, is very hopeful when we hear things like this. You know, the UN's global supply chain has already been mobilized for COVID in terms of deploying PPE, humanitarian goods, humanitarian workers. So it's there. The mechanisms and the infrastructure by which our UN agencies, notably WHO and UNICEF, vaccinate people in active war zones with local partners is there, and we'll keep doing it because obviously, as you know, we've been very concerned about the impact of not only of conflict but of shutdown on regular immunizations, polio, measles, and all of that. So, in a sense, the infrastructure is there. It will need to be scaled up massively, but on the part of the UN, the know-how is already there, and it's something that we do, and then my colleagues at UNICEF, WHO, and NGO partners do all the time in the most difficult circumstances.
But clearly there are clear challenges. For example, this Pfizer vaccine has to be kept at an extremely cold temperature and transported like that. Is the Secretary-General going to put someone in charge of this global support role to WHO?
Look, you know, at this point, as I said, WHO is in the lead. I think we need to see how things evolve in terms of the vaccine.
And I have,
go ahead. No, go ahead.
The G20 is coming up in 10 days' time. The Secretary-General quite often speaks at the G20. On this occasion, it's a virtual meeting. Is he invited? Is he speaking? And then what? Given where we are with COVID, what will be his message, and what does he think the G20 can bring to the COVID response?
He will speak. He will also send a letter, as he always does, before the G20. We will share that letter with you in advance. It will be a message of coordination, of resource mobilization, of ensuring that the resources that are mobilized are done in a way that are green and climate friendly, that we seize this opportunity, and ensuring that no one is left behind. Okay, I think Iftikhar.
Thank you, Steph. One day after Secretary General's congratulatory message to President-elect Biden, has there been any phone contact or any discussions between the two sides to hold a meeting?
Which two sides?
The Secretary General and the Biden campaign.
No, there's been no contact that I'm aware of, and I don't anticipate anything in the near future. No, I'll leave it at that. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you all. James, thank you for coming. And we'll see you guys tomorrow.